What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. This week is the last week of divisional previews here on the podcast. And you know what that means. That means NFL football season starts next week. But for those of you who can't wait that long, there's a lot of great stuff to get you through. We have three more excellent episodes of Fouled Out coming at you, starting with today's NFC West preview. Saturday, we're going to have the AFC West preview. And then next week, Wednesday, we will be back with the Picks Pod. We've picked all the division winners, or at least we will have after these two podcasts this week. But we'll come back with our wild card teams, award winners, Super Bowl contenders, and then the Super Bowl champion picks for the podcast. Also, this Saturday, college football kicks into high gear with the first official week of the NCAA season, week one. Some really good games this weekend too, starting Thursday when Florida goes to Utah. A couple kind of okay ones on Saturday, not any big headliners, but Sunday night, LSU versus Florida State's number 5 versus number 8. So great podcast, great college football. I'm sure a lot of you got fantasy football drafts coming up. And then NFL season starts a week from Thursday. We are so close and I'm pumped. But for now, let's bring in Matt to talk about the NFC West. Let's go. All right, Matt is here. We are fresh off of week 0 of the college football season where we got to watch our boy Caleb Williams do Caleb Williams things. Matt, how are you?
Caleb Williaming. I'm not doing as good as I would be if I was Caleb Williams.
No, after this weekend, I don't think anybody's doing better than Caleb Williams. If only USC could play defense, they might actually be a contender this season, but not great against San Jose State. If you're not great against San Jose State, then I think you got some real problems.
Hey, that is NCAA championship contender San Jose State.
I wanted to start off by bringing up Caleb Williams, not only because I very much enjoyed watching him this weekend, as I always do, but it kind of ties into the biggest storylines for the NFC West, the division that we're talking about today. So why don't you kick us off with your biggest storyline so that we can continue this conversation?
I think there's a real battle in the NFC West for Caleb Williams. The Arizona Cardinals are in full-blown tank mode, and it's going to be real hard to beat them in this battle. I made my actual win projection for them on the Certified Beef podcast, and based on the moves they've made since then, I might have gone too high, and I projected them to have 2 wins.
Cards released Colt McCoy the other day, the assumed starter. They trade for Joshua Dobbs, who we've seen Joshua Dobbs start NFL games before. And there is a reason we have not seen Joshua Dobbs start NFL games in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It is not good.
The other contender within the division is the LA Rams. And I know, like, on face value, we don't expect them to be that bad. But this is a roster that is paper thin. They are, like, 1 or 2 injuries away from fully being in the same boat. And can you imagine the level of excitement that there would be for the LA Rams to be getting Caleb Williams?
Yeah, a couple notes fantasy-wise, too. Just because I know everybody's got their drafts like this week or they're preparing right now. On the Cardinals, the app The Score released their article that said 1 player at every position to avoid in fantasy football this season. And their pick at quarterback was Kyler Murray. I was like, yeah, I'm also like avoiding Emmitt Smith at running back in fantasy. Like, what are we talking about? They were like, yeah, even if Kyler Murray does come back, okay, Kyler Murray's not coming back this season.
No.
The Arizona Cardinals have gone into full Philadelphia 76ers tank mode. Kyler is on the physically unable to perform list to start the season, so he's at least not playing the first 4 games. And I doubt he's going to play any other ones this season either because they are
Well,
going all in on Caleb
it's
Williams.
actually 6. The pup list is 6 games. The NFI list is 4. But he got injured in an NFL game. So he can't go in the NFI because that is certainly not a non-football injury.
Yeah, so I mean, however many games he's going to miss just because of the injury. Like, you're telling me they're going to bring him back coming off of a torn ACL and then like stick him in there to try to play
when they're 0-6.
Yeah, when they're already like 0-6 or 0-8 or whatever they're going to be at that point. It's not happening. They got rid of Hopkins. They're getting rid of all sorts of guys. So they're definitely tanking. The Rams, like, I really like Cooper Kupp. I'm a big Cooper Kupp fan. I had him during his monster fantasy season a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I'm avoiding Cooper Kupp in the first round of drafts. Not that I don't think he can be good, but the Rams' whole season, as well as his fantasy season, relies not only on his health, but also on Matt Stafford's health and vice versa. Like,
yeah,
offensively, if either of those guys go down, I don't know what they do.
Yeah,
like they have nothing besides them.
And I mean, I think everyone kind of knows I'm as big of a Stafford fan as anyone is, but nobody's ever used to have a back injury, right? Like, especially at his age, once he starts taking those hits, and I think they did their best to address the offensive line that they could, but it's going to creep up again. And it won't be long before his wife gets in his ear and is like, hey, you got to shut it down and you're going to be retiring because it's just not worth it for him to tough it out like he used to.
A story came out the other day where his wife said that he's having a hard time connecting with the younger players on the team. And I was like, oh man, this is how it starts because I watched this movie with Tom Brady and Giselle where the wife comes out and she starts saying like, oh, he's just not really loving the game the way he used to and doesn't get along with the guys in the locker room. And like, whether it's true or not, when your wife starts saying these things, it means she's in his ear telling him, hey, like 1 more year or like 2 more years, like it's coming. But I mean, even if Stafford is healthy all season, Cooper Kupp's coming off an injury. And if he gets hurt again and misses any time, like as good as Matt Stafford is, he'd be throwing to Ben Skoranek, Van Jefferson, and Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
And it just gets to a point where like if you don't have guys to throw to, your quarterback can be as good as he wants.
Yeah.
If guys aren't getting open, you're going to have a ton of trouble moving the ball. So it really relies on both of them to be healthy for the entire season.
That's like the weird thing about this roster is they do have 3 players on this roster that are good enough when they are on their absolute A game that they can take over the game and win the game on their own. However, all 3 of those guys have had injuries in the last 2 years. So
I honestly, if I was like Sean McVay or the Rams GM and I was watching Caleb Williams every weekend, I probably would have encouraged Aaron Donald, Matt Stafford to retire this past offseason. I would be like, you guys had a great run. Why don't you guys just go home, relax, maybe come back next year if you want to. Like, I would do really bad things to get Caleb Williams on my team.
You almost have to consider seeing what you could get for Aaron Donald in the trade market this past offseason. If you can get some trade capital for the future or some draft capital for future drafts in a trade for him and get Caleb Williams with your own pick in the upcoming draft, that is a springboard right back into being at the top of your division.
Yeah, I'm just never going to get over the fact that Houston gave Arizona two chances at Caleb Williams. I mean,
Yeah.
for people who don't know, and like I know that there are people out there who only watch like NFL. They don't really watch college.
Yeah.
Go watch Caleb Williams highlight reel. I text you this when I was watching him the other day. I think Caleb Williams has the best highlight tape since Reggie Bush. His highlight film is better than any other college player I've ever seen except for Reggie Bush. Like that's how incredible it is. Like just watch him. It's
Yeah.
he does all of like the mobility in the pocket, the elusiveness, the like throwing on the run, like every single thing you want from a modern quarterback. He does it at like a 10. And he has stuff he has to work on. Obviously, no prospect is perfect, but like, we had Trevor Lawrence come out in the draft a couple of years ago, and people are like, this is the best quarterback prospect. He's on the level of John Elway and Andrew Luck and blah, blah, blah. I like Caleb Williams more than I like Trevor Lawrence.
Certainly, I wouldn't say that he has the polish of Andrew Luck. There's things that he's got to work on. But man, like some of it doesn't feel like it's going to matter.
The playmaking ability that he showed all year last year, and even in the first game, granted, like it's against San Jose State, but he literally, I sent you the play the other day. They snap him the ball and he drops the snap. They like fumble it when he's trying to hand it off. He picks it up, has four dudes bearing down on him about to hit him, and off his back foot whips it, 50-yard bullet downfield to a receiver for a guy catches it and runs it in for a touchdown. Like I've never seen anybody like. I'm not saying he's
a very small list of guys that are capable of doing that now.
Yeah,
it's very small.
I'm not saying he's gonna be as good as Patrick Mahomes because like it's insane to say anybody in the NFL is gonna be that good, but like Patrick Mahomes did not flash this type of playmaking in college. Like Patrick Mahomes had a lot of cool, like great moments playing in that Texas Tech offense in college, but like not like this. I'd highly encourage you all to go watch Caleb Williams. And I don't blame any team that's going to try to tank for him, whether it's like Arizona or the Rams, like just give up. I just be like, okay, I get it. Fine. This is like, it's like in the NBA when like a game changing dude comes in, like this dude is 100% a game changer.
Yeah.
And I think we're still early on him. Like he's going to be the number one pick in the draft guaranteed. But I think like people haven't realized quite what he's capable of or like what kind of level prospect he is yet.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to see some NFL teams do some bad things.
Yeah. I think it's going to be another, 10, 15 years until we see another guy like him.
Yeah. Well, like, and not to mention the consolation prizes in this draft are not bad either.
No.
Like you miss out on Caleb Williams, Drake
May.
Yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be up there, who's going to be an elite receiver. Like the top of this draft class is very, very good.
Yeah.
My biggest storyline for the NFC West this season, something that we've been dying to talk about all off season. We almost like in the middle of basketball had to stop doing basketball podcasts so we could talk about this topic. My biggest storyline is, will the 49ers ever get off of the Eagles' jock?
The answer is no.
At least not until week 13 when they play each other.
I know Debo won't.
If you miss this, which I don't know how you could have missed this if you listened to this podcast, but the 49ers lost the NFC Championship game to Philly 31-7 last year, leading to what is commonly known as the saltiest offseason in the history of recorded human life. Like in any sport, I've never seen this level of salt. Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, the kicker, Robbie Gould, and Deebo Samuel multiple times bitched all offseason. San Francisco's front office was complaining. The fans are just super salty. Basically, everybody's saying the Eagles weren't actually that good, and that if Brock Purdy hadn't gotten hurt, they would have won that game. a game that they lost 31-7. Like when your kicker is coming out, he literally, like, Robbie Gould came out before the Super Bowl and said, if Kansas City can make Jalen Hurts sit back in the pocket and play quarterback, their defense is going to have a good day because he's not that good. He's not like a good like quarterback, like he's a runner. And it's like when the kicker is coming out and getting super pissed and super salty about everything, we've reached like a new level.
Yeah. What I think like really jumps out to me about this whole situation too is that they were so busy, like as an organization, at targeting the Eagles all offseason. The Lions had to be the team that were like, hey, no, we need to do something about this rule. So, like, we need an emergency quarterback situation kind of deal. Because San Fran certainly was not the one pushing that through.
The funniest thing about this whole offseason was like, it just kept coming up.
Yeah.
It just, like, it wasn't like it was all close to the NFC Championship game. It wasn't like, oh yeah, they lost and then they bitched for like a couple weeks and then the Super Bowl happened and we forgot
this went
about
on
it.
for like 6 months.
It's like still going on. They're like still bitching about it. So it's important because the two favorites to win the NFC right now, the Philadelphia Eagles at plus 330 and the San Francisco 49ers at plus 400. So, like, not only did they spend their whole offseason complaining, but seemingly the biggest obstacle for both of these teams to go to the Super Bowl this season is each other. And we've just seen it before. Like, I've talked about this on the podcast before that, like, the killer bee Pittsburgh Steelers with Roethlisberger, Brown, Bell, and all those guys. One of the main things that held them back from ever beating the Patriots was how obsessed they were with beating the Patriots. Like, Tomlin made uncharacteristically stupid coaching decisions when they played the Patriots.
Yeah.
Like they just were doing too much because they were so obsessed with trying to beat New England. And that was one of the things that made it so that they never could. And I just wonder if we're going to see San Francisco in a similar situation where, like, they play Philly week 13. I have it circled on my calendar. It's the game I'm most excited about this season. Are they going to be like so obsessed with Philly that they like lose focus on other things this season? Like, are they off mentally because they're just like, they're like, oh man, week 13, we just got to get to week 13. Like, we want to beat these guys so bad, especially as it gets closer. And like, does this combined with the Nick Bosa thing, combined with like they just shipped Trey Lance out, combined with like, Purdy's coming off an injury, you got a lot of stuff going on. There's some indicators that kind of point to them being the bad vibes team this season. This is the thing with them though, is that like the roster is so talented.
Yeah.
Because like the vast majority of teams, it's like, oh man, we lost Christian McCaffrey. What are we going to do? And it's like, oh yeah, we have Elijah Mitchell, who is not Christian McCaffrey, but is still a damn good running back.
Right. But their running backs that hurt every year. Every year. Like, it's not one that they lose. It's like 7.
I know, but this is the thing with them though, is that like they could be the bad vibes team this season.
Yeah.
They could be the team that like they're so good, but there's so much going wrong around the organization and like within the organization that like they lose more games than they should.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they are so damn talented.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you lose Christian McCaffrey. Oh, we got Elijah Mitchell. Oh, we lost Elijah Mitchell. Watch Deebo Samuel be the best running back in the damn league. Like, it's those guys. It's Ayuk, it's Kittle, it's Trent Williams, it's like Bosa, assuming that he signs his contract, and Fred Warner, and like the safety is like good as hell. Like they're so talented. It's amazing to me because I was thinking a lot about Trey Lance this week as he got traded to the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah.
And you look at like they traded away all these picks to go get Trey Lance. Have you seen the list of guys that they picked Trey Lance ahead of?
It's not great.
Like literally the next 9 picks are like all pro level players.
Yeah. It's not dissimilar to like the list of players that were drafted immediately after the Lions took Eric Ebron.
Yes, they pick Lance third. And I'm just going to read you the next couple picks. Kyle Pitts, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penei Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devonta Smith, Justin Fields, Micah Parson, Rashawn Slater. Literally almost all of those guys are already like Pro Bowl all-star level players.
Mm-hmm.
They missed out on all of that, and they're still one of, if not the most talented teams in the entire league. It's incredible.
I've been famously not in on Justin Fields, but holy shit, could you imagine Justin Fields in that offense? They wouldn't need to run the ball. They wouldn't even need to pass the ball.
I didn't even go that far because like they still got Purdy in the 7th round. Imagine putting like Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle on this offense. Imagine putting like Patrick Surtain or like Micah Parsons on this defense.
Yeah, but I mean, realistically, they trade up into the 3 spot. They're taking a quarterback, right?
But they started at like 12 though. They could have stayed at 12 and got Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
Like, or Rashawn Slater. It's like, I mean, and you can go down the list. There's other good guys in that round. But anyway, it's just the team is so damn good. They're so deep and they're so talented that like they could trade all of that capital for a quarterback and miss on the quarterback and still be one of the favorites to win the NFC. It's kind of amazing to me, but I don't think they're winning the NFC unless they can get over this Philly thing. Let's go on to win ranges, and I'll let you go first with, I think, I think you kind of already mentioned where you're going to be on this one, but I believe the first team is the Arizona Cardinals. The Caleb Williams Cardinals.
After releasing Colt McCoy, I have them between 1 and 4. It's bad news over there right now, unless you are in on the tank. It is an intentionally bad roster.
Yeah, their over under in Vegas is 4.5. I said I was almost the same as you. I said 2 to 4. I did mine before they released Colt McCoy, so like I'm just gonna stick with it. But I could see this team winning 0 games, honestly.
Yeah.
The funny thing is though that like they still have guys on this team that I like. Not a lot of them, but like Buda Baker's still on this team. Love me some Buda Baker. Like,
yeah,
there's some pieces. No, it was pretty much just Buda Baker. There's like there's a couple pieces that I like, they're okay. I think it's funny, like, they won the draft to me. Not because they went and got anything particularly awesome, but like they get Houston's first pick. And I just totally think there's a chance for them to draft, like, hopefully for them, Caleb Williams. And then imagine like if Houston is as bad as we think they're going to be this season and they get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. in the draft. Or Caleb Williams and another elite player, like whoever else is at the top of that board. That's what I would be rooting for as a Cardinals fan. I would be like, I want to win 0 games this season. Like winning 1 game this season is malpractice. Like 0, 0, 0. I would be pissed if we won any games.
Yeah, I mean, look, you're already like telegraphing that you're not trying to win games. Let's just go all the way.
Hard agree. I would purposely win 0.
So next up, I have LA. I have the Rams between 3 and 6. I can totally see a scenario where the injury bug hits and they fall apart and they are an absolute bottom feeder of a team. But if their guys stay healthy, like Stafford, Cup, Donald. That's good enough for 6 wins in and of itself.
I'm glad we're back on the same page this week. We had a couple divisions that we didn't agree on the last couple weeks, but I had 3-7. I basically said the same thing. It's just like if they lose Cup or Stafford, that offense is in trouble. But on the off chance that like we get, 14, 15 games out of both of them this season, and like I think Cooper Kupp's health is like less questionable than Stafford's, but I just see the scenario where it's like, okay, Cooper Kupp, Aaron Donald, Cam Akers, everybody's healthy, led by Stetson Bennett. Like Stetson, not great in the preseason, as much as I do like him, but yeah, I could see one guy getting hurt just kind of dismantles this whole season. Like,
Yeah.
you're missing one of those guys on offense, or if you're missing Donald on defense for any time, it's like, how many games are we really winning? And even if they're
Yeah.
all healthy, the rest of the roster is not great. They're paying the bill for that Super Bowl still for
Yeah.
sure.
They're gonna play a lot of UDFAs this year. And it's gonna suck this year, but it will pay off for them next year because they're gonna find some guys that are gonna help them next year. And they're gonna have them cheap. And that's how you build a roster.
Well, they'll actually have a first round pick this year too.
Yeah, but they're not gonna keep it.
No. We're going all in, baby. Over under in Vegas for the Rams is 6.5, by the way.
So the 49ers, I have them between 9 and 12. As much as we kind of talked about them being distracted, I cannot ignore the amount of talent on that roster. While I have some reasons to pump the brakes on Kyle Shanahan, he's certainly good enough to make sure that like they're definitely above 500, even with injuries. So I still think they're going to be. I mean, my prediction on Certified Beef was 10-7, and I think that's still good enough for them to make the wild card. But I just all it's going to take is for them to drop 1 or 2 games this year to lose out on that division championship.
Yeah, I have them almost the same. I said 10-13 for the 49ers. We're going to pick the bad vibes team, give you the official one. I have a couple thoughts, but like, even if they are the bad vibes team this year, the team that the vibes surrounding them make it so they don't reach their ceiling. Like, we had the Cardinals as the bad vibes team last year coming off of like their best season in however long.
Yeah.
But like the 49ers could be the bad vibes team and still go like 9-8 and make the playoffs. It's just like that would be a tremendous disappointment for how good this team is and what the franchise expects. Their over under is 10.5, one of the higher ones that we've had. But yeah, I do worry about Brock Purdy a little bit, just because like, he comes in halfway through the year last year and lights it up as Mr. Irrelevant, and he was really good for them down the stretch. But like, now people have 9 games, 10 games, 11 games of film on you, and they've had a whole offseason to study what you can and can't do well. And like, we've seen this with a lot of guys in a lot of sports where they come in, they're like awesome to start, and then the league kind of figures them out and catches up to them. And I think there's a chance for that with Purdy this season.
I mean, there's a chance, but I don't think he was doing anything differently than what he was doing in his college tape. Right? Like, the things that he did well in the Shanahan offense are the things that he did well in college. So, I mean,
I would say that's the that's the upside for them, and that's the part that kind of mitigates my fear is that like
Yeah,
they don't need him to be like awesome.
right.
They just need him to run this offense.
Right. I guess like if it's like, oh, we didn't have enough tape on him, it's like, hey, DCs, did you prepare for these games?
Like, oh God, what's he gonna do? And there's someone on the sideline, like some quality control guy, going, "He's gonna throw a fucking slant. He's gonna throw the slant. Watch." And they're like, "Oh God, we just can't know. We can't know.
We can't know. I bet it's a fade.
I bet, yeah, like watch. It's gonna be a streak. He's got a cannon for an arm, and this guy's just like holding his hat in his hands. He's like, God damn it." All right, let's go to the last one, the virtual background of the week that I
Yes.
did not understand at first, but once you explained it, I realized this is brilliant.
Yeah. The Seattle Sea Chickens, I have them at between 9 and 12 as well. But I am far more comfortable in them being closer to 12 than I am San Francisco. It's hard not to love everything they've done in the wake of what they did last year.
Yeah, we're like in lockstep today. We're
Yeah.
keyed in, man. I said 9 to 11. They definitely got better. I think the weapons on offense. Like I'm kind of like sad that we got this far into the podcast and haven't talked about Seattle yet because I'm high on them this season.
Yeah.
Offensively, the weaponry around Geno Smith is some of the best in the league. Like we talked about all the 49ers weapons. Well, Seattle's got Metcalf and Lockett, and they drafted my favorite wide receiver in the draft, Jackson Smith and Jigba. You got Kenneth Walker in the backfield. You just drafted Zach Charbonnet to back him up, who I like a lot. And then like defensively, I think that secondary is going to be nasty this season. Like, they nailed the Woolen pick last season. He was, the best defensive rookie we saw besides Sauce Gardner. Then you follow that up with, he was up there.
Hutch.
I was actually I was thinking Jack Jones too, because Jack Jones was like super underrated. But Tyreek Woolen,
he was in that class though.
Tyreek Woolen was way up there last season. You follow that up with drafting Witherspoon, who, if he does end up being the type of guy we think he is, that you can just like stick on the other team's number one wide receiver and be like, okay, we got that locked up. Like, let's figure out everything else.
Yep.
And you could just kind of like deploy Woolen freely as like a nickel or like other corner.
It just so happens that his head coach is the best DB coach this side of Nick Saban. So that helps a lot. I mean, I honestly probably could have gone higher on their range at their cap because they really addressed the defense in the offseason. They made it a point. They addressed it. This was a really high scoring offense last year. And they added weapons. The sky is the limit for this team.
It's kind of funny. Like the only thing that could potentially really hold them back this season is the offensive line is still not great.
Yeah.
I think PFF has them like in the bottom third of the league. And I still am like, Geno Smith. I don't know.
I'm sold on Geno. 17 games is a long time.
Yeah, but he was really, really good to start off the season last year. And then they went to Germany. And after he went to that Germany game against the Bucks, he kind of fell off like the second half of the season.
Don't let him go drink all the German beer and he's fine.
The Bucks aren't going to be the same team that beat him last year either. But
yeah.
No,
I just also think that, you look at his efficiency numbers too, and like the efficiency on his deep balls this past year was insane.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's necessarily repeatable, but it won't have to be with JSN.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between being sold on Geno Smith as a starting quarterback in the NFL and being sold on him as like a 12 wins, 13 wins winning the division quarterback. So,
Yeah, well, it helps when the only contender is a bad vibes team. So
it's very true. What is your bold prediction for the NFC West?
I'm gonna stay with the Sea Chickens. They are not going to have one, not two, not three, but four offensive players who reach 1,000 yards of offense.
So I'm going to say Metcalf, Walker. Do you think Lockett and Smith and Jigba?
Yeah, so I could see if it's not JSN, because they're gonna use Zach Charbonnet. I could see him combining between rushing and passing yards to get to 1,000 yards. They spent a second round pick on him. Like he's gonna get his usage. And they ran the ball a lot last year anyways. Like there's gonna be enough to
That's
go
the
around.
craziest thing about Seattle is that like they drafted Kenneth Walker in the second,
Yeah.
and then he was an absolute beast last year. And they're like, you know what we're gonna do?
I'll fucking do it again.
We're gonna do it again, baby. Let's go. I'm for my bold prediction, I'm gonna stay in Seattle, actually.
Jeez.
And I like this because we spent most of the podcast talking about the other teams in this division, and now we're talking about Seattle. But I'm gonna go on the other side of the ball and say that Seattle is top 5 in passing defense this season. They finished 17th last year and then draft Devin Weatherspoon.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think like the impact of drafting someone like that, like we saw it with the Jets last season, where like if Witherspoon is the true type of like number one shutdown corner that we think he can be,
Mm-hmm.
and he can do it right away, it's like, okay, so I have Witherspoon on the other team's top receiver. I have Tariq Woolen I can kind of deploy freely now.
Yeah.
Like, there's a couple other good guys in the defense. Like I like their safeties. I like a lot of those guys. So
you know what else helps as a rookie corner? Quandre motherfucking Diggs.
mm-hmm.
Like still doesn't get enough love. And I blame Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn, but
yeah, that's Quandre Diggs. Jamal Adams, like we joke about Jamal Adams a lot on this podcast, but he's like a good linebacker,
Yeah, no, like he needs to play closer to the line of scrimmage, but man, like he's good in that area.
Mm-hmm. Bobby Wagner's back. Like I like the defense a lot more this season than what we saw last year.
Yeah.
Who is your division winner?
We're gonna stay in Seattle with them Sea Chickens.
I really want to ride with you on Seattle. And that was actually going to be like, I am really high on them this season. I talked earlier on a different podcast about how I was like really high on 2 NFC teams this year. And it was Atlanta and Seattle, actually. And I just
Northwest, I hear, is beautiful. You might as well.
God, dude, I want to live there so bad. Not only is it gorgeous, it rains all the time, which is my favorite, and football's on 3 hours earlier.
Fucking do it.
Oh my God.
Come to the rainy side.
Fuck it. We're picking Seattle. I think we could easily end up regretting it with the 49ers just because like the 49ers are so talented. Like
here's the thing with their like angst towards the Eagles. It can either distract them and make them drop games that they shouldn't, or they just don't lose any fucking games. They just take it out on every team that they play.
They're like, you struck us down and now we've become more powerful than you could possibly imagine. No, I mean, I don't want to step on the picks pod for next Wednesday, but like I 100% will be picking the 49ers to take a wild card spot because I just think they're too talented to miss the playoffs. But like it really could go either way with them. It could be bad vibes or it could be like we are all focused on the singular goal of being 12-0 or 11-0 walking into Philly in week 13. And we're going to fucking smoke those guys. I'm excited to see it. But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up on Twitter at Fouled Out Sports. You can find Matt on Twitter at Matador_defense. And you can find our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It's a long name, but you can't miss it. This podcast comes out on Wednesday, August 30th, meaning that tomorrow, college football week 1 starts with Florida visiting Utah. I don't remember the last time I saw, not that Florida is the most elite SEC program right now, but I don't remember the last time I saw a big SEC program play a true road game.
Maybe they signed a home and home.
They did. And it's weird because week 1 not only has that game to start it off on Thursday night, the Sunday night game, LSU is going to Florida State. Is it at Florida State or is that a neutral site? Hold on. I might be wrong.
Hold on.
Oh, it's at Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida. It's an away game enough, even though it's at a neutral site. It's in Florida. Okay, so give me a break. So, but no, I mean, Florida plays a true road game. They're going to Utah to play that game. Yeah. So that's something I'm excited for. Minnesota and Nebraska is also on, which is new era in Nebraska versus PJ Fleck, who we love to hate. And then good weekend of college football with our podcast, the AFC West preview, dropping on Saturday. So everybody enjoy the football. And then Matt, my friend, I will see you soon.
Woo!
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.